Okay, Cam. You know the characters on Magic School Bus?
No.
Okay, well, there's, Mrs. Frizzle. There's the kid with the glasses. There's the girl who was like, am I old school? But the best one was the one who said, according to my research. We've talked about how that's me inside, that's Tristan inside.
Yes.
Well, today that's you inside because you just did a bunch of research on an important game. Cam was out on assignment. He played this. Did you play the whole game?
No.
Okay, well, you played a big chunk of this game. We've been talking about Diablo IV, I should say, on the show, if you haven't noticed.
For most of this year, yeah.
Yeah, right. We did all kinds of episodes on it, and we're still talking about it and talking about how it did and didn't meet our expectations and all these things. But Cam found a game that is basically, what would you say, what Diablo 4 is trying to be?
Well, it's weird because the game has been out for most of a decade, which would make it almost closer to Diablo 3. But I think it's also kind of been, it was like a successor to Diablo 3 that Diablo 4 kind of isn't. Mm-hmm. And my findings, because I went out on assignment and played this game, this is Path of Exile.
You did your research.
I did do my research. I'm reporting back on that. I think, and this is sort of a thesis, they don't have to be in competition, but I think Path of Exile is eating Diablo's lunch. We have found things to love in Diablo 4, but we've had to look.
We have, yeah. It's been a struggle. So what's happening here today is Cam played this game. I have not played it at all. I've only seen a couple quick flashes of it. I don't even know what's going on. So Cam's going to sort of pitch it to me, and I'm going to and you, the listener,
and Tristan, the other host,
the other listener, and I'm going to react and ask questions, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So Cam, tell us about this game.
So Path of Exile. I've had this downloaded on every console I've had for years, and I've tried it multiple times, and every time I get 10 minutes in, I'm like, it's not Diablo. I
don't like it. It's not the thing I know.
And then I quit and don't go back to it.
That's a really good way to live your life, I think.
And then I try all the other mediocre Diablo clones, and I just get totally sick of it. I go back and spend 2 weeks in Diablo 3, and they're like, I want something new. Why isn't there a sequel?
And then you just, it's terrible.
And then I end up here again. I had so many abandoned characters when I fired it up this time.
Oh, I didn't realize you had tried to play it before.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But I always chose the wrong class. But as you know, if you've been listening to our Diablo coverage this year, we talked about Diablo 3, did a big 10-year retrospective, we talked about the D4 beta, and now we're going through the campaign act by act. We're almost done with that. Mm-hmm. My big revelation has been being a sorcerer in every fantasy game I can find. It worked out great in Elden Ring and the Souls games. It's working out great in Diablo 4. I even went back into 3. I've liked the sorcerer thing.
Are you going to do that in Baldur's Gate?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
Very cool.
So I basically wanted this to be like an A/B test that was very clean. So I created an electric witch in Path of Exile, which is exactly the kind of character I have in Diablo 4.
Okay.
And I named her Margaret, but this one I just named Yennefer.
Listener, I should let you know, my name is not Margaret. Camp just calls me Margaret.
But that's
for
the fun of it. So
yes.
I tried to create a character as close as possible to my Diablo 4 sorceress, just to see how what it looked like here. And I have some very bad news. Path of Exile is fantastic. And like I said, is eating Diablo 4's lunch. Because it is a fantasy ARPG, an action role-playing game that has beautiful environments, great particle effects that reminded me of...
Sorry, particle effects?
Well, I was thinking about Baldur's Gate 3, which Tristan showed us this past weekend.
Yeah.
And it obviously doesn't have the sparkle of that being a mostly 10-year-old game, but the engine has that sort of weight to it, especially with an electric character, the particles and the tendrils of that electricity. It looks amazing.
So this game has been out for what you said, about 10 years or longer?
Yeah, they're working on the sequel now, and that's already been iterating for a while.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, and they keep expanding it, but we'll get to that later.
Sorry, real quick, are you going to spoil anything in the game?
I haven't gotten that far.
Okay, great.
And the
I just
lighting,
like to say that at the top.
The lighting engine's great. It's got a linear campaign, which is what we look for from Diablo. It has quest givers that you talk to more. Mm-hmm. People you really develop relationships with and interact.
Do you actually though? Because you tend to skip through a lot of dialogue.
It's that it makes people in town feel important.
Okay. Because
they're the resource where you're turning in quests. Uh-huh. And if you're already rushing back to see what reward you get from them, you then stick around to chat with them a little bit.
Okay.
It incentivizes that stuff I usually blow past better. Good.
Okay, I was going to say, you feel compelled to stick around and talk to them. Because, I don't skip through anything, but that's because I'm a little insane. And I'm like, but they spend time on it, so I should watch it. But you, tend to go, yeah, okay. But it's good that you were, you want it to stick around. It's a good sign. Okay.
So we're going to break down 6 ways in which I think Path of Exile is doing Diablo better than Diablo.
Great.
And then we've got a little conclusion to wrap things up. So
sounds good.
The first one here is skills. And I think it's important to start with them because the skill tree is something we've talked about throughout our Diablo IV conversations.
Skill trees might be the death of me. I get confused and scared by them. Is this one scary
because
and confusing?
it was smaller in Diablo 3, and you unlocked everything, and you got to...
It also didn't look like a tree, and I think that was the kicker. You can only look at like a couple things at a time.
It was small and complete, and through a normal playthrough of that game, you would get well acquainted with every branch on that tree.
You could try literally every single thing,
4 is a lot more punishing for experimentation.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that.
You have to refund skill points. You don't unlock all of it. By the time you move on to Paragon points, you don't unlock the whole tree.
Right.
It's just less friendly and complete. And I think you could make that argument for Path of Exile, because instead of having a couple dozen nodes like the skill tree on Diablo 4 has, this one has 1,300 nodes. But
oh my God.
That means that there's an incredible amount of customization.
So does that mean for dummies like me, that's not like you don't have like 1,000 skills?
No.
It's like little additions and changes that you can apply to your like certain set of core skills or whatever.
Yes, and we'll sort of explain that because you don't, at least for this witch class, you don't unlock skills in the same way you get skills in a game like Diablo.
Okay.
Like the spells that I do are gems.
Oh, okay.
And I can put those different colors and types of gems into my equipment.
Oh.
So when I'm getting things in the skill tree, it's like 10% spell damage, 4% cast speed.
Oh, so you're getting stats.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's just what the tree is called.
Okay.
And if you build up a little circle of those little nodes, you get like a bonus power in the middle sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And I just built up to one that gave me 25% lightning damage increase.
Whoa.
Like all of these upgrades, you feel. They're tangible. They make sense. They're not just like a mercurial +3 resistance. You know what the fuck that means?
Yeah.
We have that all the time.
And thorns. Yeah.
And there are plenty of other games that get knocked for trees like that are just vague and nonsensical.
Yeah.
As much as I loved Assassin's Creed Valhalla, same thing in that tree.
Oh, okay.
You just go for the big boy skills there. The little nodes mean nothing.
Okay.
But every time I got a chance to upgrade in Path of Exile, it was worthwhile and tangibly changed like the quality of life in the game.
That's great, because that's like I said, the thing we've said is a huge piece that's missing in Diablo 4 is you don't feel the immediate effect and change of when you get a new skill or you get an upgrade, and so there's no like incentive and motivation to keep going and keep leveling up.
And you can zoom out in the skill tree, which is another thing you can't do in Diablo 4.
No, you just kind of scroll up and down.
So you can see the whole thing, and you could plan towards some far-off node and kind of worm your way over there.
Okay, so you can like actually utilize its complexity and not just be overwhelmed by it.
It's also an incredibly kind and welcoming community if you want to look it up and find a pre-existing build where you can eventually get to the best version of however you like to play.
That's nice. Like the Diablo community, in my experience, isn't like unwelcoming, but they're a little scary and they're a little intense, and sometimes I feel really dumb when I'm trying to find something out.
Sure, yeah, and I think this one, because it is more of like an indie title, because it's more iterative and scrappy, and it's not from this like behemoth like Blizzard is now.
Okay.
There's a little more of that grassroots feel to it. So every time you level up, it just feels concrete. It feels like you're making a difference. And yes, if there are 1,300 nodes, that means the tree has a lot of little branches on the end.
Yeah.
But all the core ones, like it's in a big circle around the nodes that you're looking at.
Okay.
It all goes out in all these different directions. All of the ones that are closer to the center, they make sense. They're very clear. So if you just kind of follow your gut and like, oh, I want more defensive abilities, you'll go in a branch that'll make sense for that.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
I haven't felt lost or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Which is crazy given how big that number is.
Yeah. So it's pretty intuitive of like what kind of specialization or specification you want to get into.
Yeah.
Because like I'm finding in Diablo 4, like, and this is always going to be my comparison, I'm sorry, but that's just what makes sense. And that's kind of what you're talking about here. I feel like I said on those episodes, I just ended up looking up the best build for my necromancer because I didn't know what I wanted, what to do, because it was so confusing. And I knew I wanted to do like a blood build, but on the skill tree, it's not like, oh, this is the blood section with all the blood skills. Like the ones I have selected feel totally random.
I found
so
it
it's
more
like, it's not
intuitive
intuitive
here.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm glad you used that word. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's felt more natural here. And the fact that the spells themselves are gems means that when I'm choosing pieces of gear, I care what sort of gem sockets they have because the spells are sort of divvied up into different colors. There's red, green, and blue. So if there's like a big piece of armor that has 3 blue slots, I'm going to use that regardless of the stats on it. But you can also change all of those details.
Okay, neat.
You can re-roll some of that and apply things that will give you more sockets or sockets of a different color. But there are, in addition to the spell gems, which sometimes you just find around the world as loot. Like, I'll get a new spell as loot. The loot's
That's
exciting
really
here.
cool.
But in addition to the spell gems, I've also found these support gems. So say you have that piece of armor that has 3 slots on it, and in 2 of them I have these skills or spells that I've discovered. If I get a support gem, if you socket it next to one of those skills or spells, it'll make it more powerful.
Oh, so like boost it.
Or it'll expand it in some interesting way.
Very cool. So it's kind of like a rune in D3, basically.
Sort of, but also like almost a main attack.
Yeah.
And you've played more Hogwarts Legacy. I'll use that comparison here. But when you pull one of the triggers and you get another palette of the spells you've unlocked,
Yes.
I have 3 of those sets of spells
okay.
that I can use. So I can flip to the side when I need all my fire skills if someone's resistant to my electricity. It's very fluid, playing it moment to moment, much more so maybe than Diablo 4. It's less polished, but it's more reactive, if that makes sense.
Cool.
The next thing I want to talk about here is inventory, which was our first kind of red flag going into Diablo 4.
Yeah.
In this respect, it's more similar to Diablo 2, which I know you haven't played yet, but
No.
I'll explain the big inventory difference there. In Diablo 4, you're working with that grid system, but everything is one little square of that grid.
Yes.
More old school RPGs, things took up a lot more than one spot. So if it was like a bow and arrow, it might be like 6 spots.
Now, was that I have no idea. Was that because of their like physical size, or did it have more to do with like their power or effectiveness or something?
No, it would be like every bow would take up that much space.
Is that because a bow is big?
I think it was to force you to make decisions.
Okay.
So you didn't carry around a bunch of stuff. You have to kind of pick and build. You
but like
can't
a gem,
stockpile.
but like a gem is like one
Right,
square.
but not all of those older games let you stack gems.
Oh.
This one does. This one lets you stack all of the little items and things, doohickeys you pick up along the way, where things like Diablo 4 somehow don't let you stack gems yet.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
So you have the
they take
quality
up
of,
all these spots. Yeah.
like, it is annoying that things take up a lot of spots, but it also does force you to be more judicious with what you pick up.
Okay, yeah.
And this is kind of the thing that makes me okay with this inferior inventory system, because I still prefer the Diablo 3 radial menu.
I'll always prefer that, yeah.
You get this, if you walk up to a piece of loot on the ground, you get this little hovering preview of what it is. And what its skills are and what it's offering.
Oh, before you even have to pick it up?
Right.
Oh.
So you don't have to throw everything in your inventory and then pick through it.
Yeah, you could just know immediately, oh, I don't want that, and leave it.
And like, you know how on controller, you don't really use the right joystick for much when you're playing Diablo sort of games?
Yeah,
In Diablo 3, you would use it to like dodge roll.
Yes.
And you don't really use it at all in Diablo 4. In this one, say I blow through a whole mob of enemies and then I've got a big pile of loot. If I walk over to the loot and it's all sort of stacked up, instead of just kind of moving my character around a few steps to try to get near the one that I'm interested in, the right stick, you can just flick up or down or left or right through everything that's on the ground.
That's really cool.
And you see the preview.
So it's acting kind of as like a cursor, basically.
So you can, but it pulls straight to the item. You're not wandering like a cursor.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I would struggle.
So you can see
Cool.
and preview everything before you pick it up. So at this point, I barely pick up anything.
Cool. So does the fact that those stats pop up, does that impede your like gameplay, especially like when you're in combat?
Not really.
Is it like, doesn't get in the way? Like, oh, like I'm trying to like fight this monster, but this sword's stats are in my way.
Not really. I haven't noticed it obscuring me at all as I'm playing.
Cool.
And you also get a lot of these little pickups, which are also similar to things you'll learn to love or hate in Diablo 2 when you play that one later. But you get these little scrolls. Sometimes it's a scroll that will open a portal back to the home base. So if you're stuck in this dungeon and you're going to die, but you want to just like, if you could just zap back to town and get some health, you jump right back in.
Oh, yeah.
You can drop one of those scrolls, make a portal, and then jump right back in after you've powered up.
Neat.
You get things like that. You also get these scrolls that identify certain items that are of higher quality. Sometimes you have to apply the scroll to see what the stats are. You see the level, but you don't see all the little perks until you apply the scroll. You get scrolls that upgrade an item in your inventory to add magical abilities to make it of a higher rarity. So basically, all of the things you have now learned to do at vendors in Diablo IV when we go back to Kyovashad and have to talk to the jeweler and the blacksmith and you can do all that in your inventory.
Wow.
With these little slots.
Very cool.
So say I found a wand that looks pretty promising. I drop a couple scrolls on it quickly. Doesn't turn out well. I just drop it from my inventory and keep moving.
Okay.
I don't have to sit through 2 cutscenes fast traveling around the world to do menial tasks.
Yeah, okay.
You can just handle it where you are.
That's pretty cool.
That also means there's sort of less to read. You just spend kind of more time doing what you want to. The stats are simple and meaningful. The comparisons are very clear. You can stack gems. My inventory is very neat and tidy. It's again, that word intuitive comes to mind.
Well, yeah, because the way you pick up items or loot in Diablo 3 and 4 is pick up everything because there's no time to look through it, and then you can like sit and sort through all your inventory and do it all at once because you have so many slots. I mean, you can get full, but it's rare that happens.
Yes.
So I kind of like this more intentional way of doing it a little bit better, because like going through your inventory can be fun, but it can also be tedious and it slows down the momentum of the game. So it's nice to kind of just do it as you go.
And
That's
when you can
cool.
just kind of snap through a couple different options of the loot you see on the ground and keep moving, you don't have that ritual slowdown. Everyone stops moving, you inventory for 45 seconds, and then you keep going with the level.
I will say though, a wonderful thing about the inventory with Diablo 4 is that if you're playing co-op, you can go through your inventories at the same time.
Sure.
So it doesn't slow it down as much as in Diablo 3, where you have to wait for one player to do it and then the other player has to do it, and that's a huge pain.
So the next section I want to talk about is gameplay more generally.
Okay.
And this is sort of an intangible, but I'm going to try to give voice to it. The gameplay is smooth. And compared to things like Diablo IV, like all of these kind of newer ARPGs that are more frustrating and gritty for no good reason, I just felt like I was hitting harder.
Okay.
It wasn't easy, but I felt like I was always doing damage.
Cool.
If there were little mobs of like puny enemies, I could melt them.
Well, that's kind of how Diablo 3 feels.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't, and Diablo 3 can get to a point where some people think it's too easy.
Oh yeah,
But
it
I
totally
think
can.
This sits sort of in that sweet spot of the great parts of Diablo 3 before you're way overpowered, because I've died plenty of times, but I always felt like I kind of learned something from the death and kind of deserved it. Usually it's like a mini boss. And there's no real punishment for dying, so you don't feel bad taking a risk. You're not gun shy.
Yeah.
When you're fighting a mini boss, like you're doing damage. It's chunky, but they're also a real threat. Like I'll be hammering potions, but I know the skills that are strong enough, if I can hold up, that will take down the boss. It's never a discouraging brick wall like so much of Diablo 4 was, depending on what patch was active that day.
For real. Yeah.
It feels much more fluid than that.
That sounds cool.
Also,
did it feel like that the whole way through, or did it like take, again, I don't know how far you got in the game, but did you feel like that immediately, or at the beginning where you're like, oh, I have nothing, I really need to like collect loot and build up my experience to level up?
It was the first lightning spell that I got that sold me, that I still use all the time.
Wow. Okay.
Which is the reason I started dumping all my points into upgrading cast speed and spell damage and eventually lightning damage. Was because I wanted to build this thing like my D4 character.
Neat. Okay.
But once I got this first lightning spell, I was like, oh, this is viable. I can actually do this and enjoy it. This isn't just an experiment.
Cool.
I'm now having fun playing a game.
Nice.
One of the first things we complained about at the beginning of Diablo 4, which was another ridiculous change from Diablo 3, was movement speed. Because it feels glacial and boring.
It really
and frustrating. Even when you get the horse, they put it on a fucking cooldown.
Yeah, so you can only go fast.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Which we've already litigated that. But the movement speed here is great.
Okay, cool.
It's quick.
That's
it's
good.
fluid. It's snappy. I don't miss the dodge roll from Diablo 3.
Yeah.
I don't even really miss the horse. Because when I do have to backtrack, I'm looking at the environment or I'm like tinkering with my build, I'm looking through loot again. Like, I'm not just trekking through endless, what feels like randomly generated parts of terrain. I'm moving quick, and I'm thinking about what the next thing is. All of my quests are right there on the right side of the screen while I'm playing. So I'm thinking about what I want to do next.
Cool.
It just doesn't feel as barren. And a large part of that is the speed that you move through the world.
Great.
Another huge part of that is the mini-map.
Yeah,
so you have the mini-map,
I've seen that as you're playing.
You have that up in the corner, which I think is essential. I understand some games don't like that now because they want a greater sense of immersion. They want to push you to truly interact with and explore the world around you.
Yeah, but also
I get that.
The map is helpful.
I like the map. I like
Especially
the
when
mini-map.
you get lost like me.
And for games like this, that I play like Lego games, where I'm going to explore every inch of the map, I want to find everything.
Yeah.
The thing I really loved about Diablo 3 was all the shadowy parts on the map that you could then go walk towards and like illuminate, and the fog would go away.
So you knew what you had explored, yeah.
But there was a thrill there.
The dungeons in D4 are like that still, which is great.
I liked that feeling of exploration and almost the progress of seeing the parts that are still cloudy. I thought that was very gratifying, and you have that here. But the minimap is so good. You can change how zoomed out it is. You can change the transparency of it. You can really tinker with settings in a way that Blizzard doesn't really let you anymore.
Cool.
But something I really fell in love with that I've also enjoyed in Diablo 2 is the ability to overlay the map.
Yes.
Which is where you can zoom in. Basically, imagine when you were in school when you put transparencies over things.
If you're old enough, you'll know.
You can put a map on top of the game.
Yes.
And again, you can change the zoom and you can change the transparency.
And I should say, I was skeptical of that because I've seen that in like footage from Diablo 2 before. And I thought that's so disorienting and distracting and weird. But I've watched you do it. I mean, for like 5 seconds at a time. But the limited time I've watched you do it, I was thinking, yeah, that actually looks really helpful. Like your brain gets used to it really fast.
Because either you can leave it up if you sort of just want to see the whole board as you're playing, or just snapping to it by hitting one of those D-pad buttons.
That seems like the ideal way to do it because I wouldn't want it all the time.
I find myself leaving it on more and more unless I really like the environment. But when you just snap it on for a second, you're oriented so much faster.
You're like, okay, I know where I am.
Because there's no delay of opening up a big menu.
Yeah. And also, is this a live game?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, well, like, can you pause it, is my question.
No. Not really.
Right, and you can't pause Diablo 4 either. So if you have to go away to look at a map in Diablo 4, you might be getting attacked and taking damage while you're looking at the map. And it's really annoying because then you have to leave the map and fight off the enemies. And you're like, I'm just trying to read the map. But it seems like in this, you can see if there are enemies approaching you while you're looking at the map because you can't pause. So you have to like keep the game going.
In both games, technically, you could open the portal back to the home base.
Like,
and if you need to sit there for a while. Well, I'm saying if you need to go pee or if you need to do something else. You can.
Sure. I just mean like for map purposes alone. I'm saying because you can't pause to look at the map easily, this is kind of a nice solution because you can see if something's attacking you.
And the map itself, we've sort of graded against the adjustment to open world in Diablo 4, and I think part of that is the movement speed and is how traversal is sort of frustrating.
And the horse just feels like a sad Band-Aid they threw on it. It doesn't feel cool. It's annoying.
Yeah, exactly. But the map here isn't just one sprawling open world. You see like an overall map of a realm or an act, and you have these little nodes that you can travel to. It looks like an old Mario game, of having this little... Sure. You can walk across them and travel to them, and they branch off from each other. And I like that. I like levels. I miss levels.
I miss levels too. They've gone away, and I don't like it. I like levels. I like the structure of levels.
Especially in the Diablo 3 dungeons, where you'd be like, Hell Rift, whatever, level 12.
Cathedral level 2. Yeah.
I like that.
Me too.
And this has that, which means more often you get that feeling of completion. Instead of
progression.
Right.
Yes,
Instead of the exhaustion of completion.
You're like, this just keeps
world.
going and going, and I don't know where to stop, and I don't know where I'm supposed to go next. Like, the freedom there is nice, and I understand it for immersion purposes, but like, I know I'm playing a game. Structure it like a game.
And because it's not an
maybe I'm just a traditionalist, but whatever.
No, I think that is the best that this genre has been, is when it's like that.
Okay.
And because it's not just an endless blob sprawling in every direction, the maps feel much more linear than Diablo has recently, and I found that much more satisfying too. The loop of gameplay with faster movement speed, with a much more active tactile sense of skill trees, skills, spells, attacks. It all just feels better for me. It feels much more satisfying, rewarding. I feel like my curiosity and my time are all better spent here. The combat is very addictive, very satisfying.
Yeah.
I'm loving all of that so far. And the next section is story. I don't want to spoil much about the actual narrative, but I'm more interested in how the story is told and given to you.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I have no idea what the premise of this game is. I have no idea what's going on.
Right, now I'm not telling you any of that.
Oh, okay.
But basically, because we're talking about this in the shadow of Diablo IV, the thing that was initially made me hesitant on this game is that it lacked those big Blizzard cinematics.
Sure.
Those incredible CGI sequences that invest you in this world,
that
set
get you hyped.
you. It really sells the setting for you. Yeah. Even if the graphics take a dive after that.
Of course, yeah.
It just hooks you.
Yeah.
And yes, Path of Exile so far has lacked those Diablo IV cinematics. But I would argue that for the most part, so has Diablo IV. There have been like 2.
Yeah, we're 5 out of 6 acts in.
And then it was like, okay, we get... Yeah, like there were 1 or 2 at the beginning. And then you got a couple that were nice when you saw Lilith Bloodpetal.
Yeah.
And now we don't even really see Lilith anymore, so we don't get any of... We get these, like, half cutscenes that are in the gameplay engine, which looks a lot uglier.
Right.
And kind of zoomed in, so it's more active.
It means your character's in it, which is cool, but...
I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah,
I want to be dazzled. When we started Baldur's Gate 3 the other day with Tristan, it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's what I want, especially at the beginning.
Well, and again, to go back to the structure, I like the structure of Diablo 3, where there's a full cinematic in between every single act, and you know it's coming. So as soon as you finish a quest and you get that like that cue
Reward.
that a cinematic is, you're like,
Yeah.
I just finished an act, a new one is starting. What's this cool scene gonna be? I'm gonna get hyped for the next bit of this story. I thought it was really, really effective, and this is just like, oh, you're in act 3 now. I'm like, oh, okay. So how does it work with Baldur?
Well,
with,
it doesn't have
then?
those. It doesn't have those big cinematics. So it's not like Diablo 3 in that way.
Right.
But if we're comparing it more to 4, it's on the same level as 4.
I see. So you're like, it's not actually competing with anything.
3 had them at regular intervals, and that's the best thing.
So
4
good.
promised them, and then they just kind of went away. So I think it's sort of more on that level.
Okay.
Once you know that you're not going to get that level of crazy production value, you start looking at what you do have. And
Great.
most of the story is given to you through text.
Okay.
You get these lore spots in the world where they mean something in context instead of it just being barked at you or B-roll as you're traveling somewhere. You talk to companions. You turn in quests. You get quests for people, turn them in to that person, and then they tell you a little something. They give you a little nugget of this world.
Okay.
So again, most of it's text and like scrolling through small, reasonable amounts of text.
Yeah.
But it's doled out to you smarter and better. So yes, it's a little analog compared to those big CG sequences, but I felt like it was executed on a higher level.
Are those words spoken like with a voice actor? Like, is there voice acting in this, or is it all text?
I haven't really played it with the sound on.
Oh, okay. You've been like,
so I'm not sure.
Got it.
But mostly the storytelling is done through location. There is the text that will tell you more of character and adventure and quest, but most of the fantasy of this fantasy game is in the environments and locations you travel to.
Cool.
They are varied. I
was going to ask if it was varied. Yeah.
They're vibrant. And really, isn't that what we want?
Yes. In a sprawling fantasy game, yeah.
Even if the narrative is sort of average or disappointing, if you get this constant variety and fantasy of these different locations, isn't that sort of why you're there?
I mean, you take it back to the original Mario. The story is whatever. You're just trying to get this princess, but you're going to these different... Like every few levels, you're in a brand new world, and there's a new environment and new types of enemies, and everything's a different color, and it's all new and exciting. So yeah, that's kind of the point.
I'm sort of in the middle of Act 2 in the story right now, and just in the last... Of what?
No, I said neat.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Just in the past few hours, I've seen prisons, like dark, screwed up prisons where you have torchlight. You have enemies sort of coming at you out of the... Not darkness, but you can see like the gross kind of... reflected light contours of these spiders or whatever it is that come at you. There's a real sense of danger. You're on the coasts and you're sort of tracking the edge of the water and the sand.
That's cool.
There's a weird freaky crab thing.
Is there a desert section?
Not that I've seen. I don't think so. I didn't.
Yeah, you haven't finished the game, but
I didn't write it down.
Okay.
which I think I would have if we were stuck in a desert for 2 acts.
Yeah, I was going to say for half the game.
But you get shipwrecks, you get forests, you get all sorts of different environments that it really seems endless in the variety they're giving you. Cool. It might slow down later in the game, but so far I'm very impressed with that variety.
So is there variety in the enemies as well?
Yes, there is. Each environment sort of throws it, changes it up.
So you don't just get the same wraiths over and over
No,
again?
I found it much more memorable and varied here.
Nice.
And again, compare that to Diablo 4's, which had 10 years of development versus 10 years of iteration and improvement. Had the story treading water in the desert for 2 whole acts of a 6-act campaign. Here, the gameplay, the storytelling is much more experiential and environmental. And that's honestly what I want from these games, where I'm going to explore every inch, where I'm going to start over with a new character class. I want that variety. I will play through Diablo 4 on the other classes later.
Of course.
But I dread the 2 acts of desert now.
Yeah, I'll just skip on through it.
The first one's wintry. The second one's Scotland. The next 2 are desert. And then things get fun. Like,
yeah,
I want more variety than that. I shouldn't be able to blurb it that easily.
Yes, right.
And hey, did I mention that this campaign is 10 acts?
Oh my goodness. Wow. How long are the acts? Are they
The
pretty
first one
lengthy?
took a while.
Okay.
They're chunky.
All right.
I mean, it's a whole little map of those nodes and locations.
Wow. 10 acts.
10.
That's pretty cool.
That's what they've been doing. When you asked if it was a live game, yes, in that they keep expanding and iterating and fixing, but actually adding more to the story and the gameplay.
Like they did in the D3 expansion when they added the 5th act, yeah.
And they were adding so much more to the game, so many more items and weapons and, acts and locations and blah, 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 blah. That's what eventually spiraled off into them realizing we have a second game here.
Yeah.
So Path of Exile 2 will be coming out in 2025, I think, from what I quickly got from Google.
Cool.
And that one is going to have that level of lighting engine and graphics of Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4. I mean, even the early previews, which they strategically dropped around the Diablo 4 launch,
of course,
have looked gorgeous. But they're also massively overhauling stuff in that game to make that all run smoother.
Sweet.
To add new options and classes and all sorts of funky things there.
That's exciting.
And the next section I want to talk about here is monetization.
Okay.
So the big thing here is microtransactions, which is something we've also graded against in Diablo 4.
Yes.
But to not bury the lead here, we hated them in Diablo 4 because we already paid $70 for that.
Yeah, plus the extra for the early release.
Yeah, we got the digital deluxe, whatever, just because we had
we paid
hopes at the time.
We paid like $85 for this game.
Path of Exile is free. So it's fine for them to have microtransactions because it's free.
Because you got to pay for your art, yeah.
And it also means they're not hitting you over the head with Diablo. It's weird. Like, it would make sense if Path of Exile was soliciting you more to buy microtransactions. But I feel like it's much more aggressive and uncomfortable in Diablo 4, a game I already gave a bunch of money to.
So what kind of microtransactions are in, I keep wanting to say Baldur's Gate, in Path of Exile?
Cosmetics.
Oh, okay. So totally not necessary.
No.
Like you can completely enjoy the game fully without any of it.
There's some minor controversy online because they sell extra stash tabs, but I checked and they give you 4 big stash tabs free. And then I think you can buy other ones.
Is a stash tab like an extra...
Like the chest we go to at the end in Diablo 4 where you store things.
Okay.
So you have your inventory and then you have your stash.
Oh.
And they give you a bunch of stash tabs. And yes, you can buy more of them, but I'm very judicious in what I pick up. I can't imagine getting
When would you ever need that much storage? Just go through your stuff and get rid of what you don't need.
So 99% of it is just appearance. And yes, all of the cool stuff in there, all of the cool looks and skins and little smoky electrical effects on your character, all of that is stuff you pay for. And yes, the prices are higher than, a couple bucks, but that's because it's free.
Of course.
And by doing that, there's an understanding you're just supporting the game.
Yeah, it's exactly. Much like if you subscribe to our Patreon, you'll be supporting the show. I mean, you get a free bonus episode every month also, but just...
Well, it's not free if you pay for it, but you get a bonus episode every month.
I keep saying it. It's $2 and it's free.
And you get our whole back catalog of episodes, which has more than a dozen episodes now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question. So do you look cool even if you don't buy the cosmetic
I look
upgrades?
terrible. But I also have not paid attention to that. I've been so much more interested in the systems and the gameplay that I haven't really even paid attention to what things look like.
Do you have any transmogrification abilities?
I haven't even looked at that yet.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because I'm the kind of person who looking cool is very important to me in a fantasy game. So.
I agree, but if the gameplay is good enough, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you get over it at a certain point, but yeah.
That's sort of where I am right now.
Okay, neat.
And if I buy like some microtransactions later, because I looked at some of the sets, and there are some amazing looking sorcerer sets.
Cool.
If I buy those, I'll feel good about them.
Yeah.
Because I've already gotten, by that point, I'll have gotten dozens of hours of entertainment out of this thing, and I want to support this smaller studio dev. So yes, there are microtransactions, but the game's free.
Yep.
And they feel earned and honest.
And it's not like Diablo Immortal, where it's like you can't play the game without buying this extra stuff. Yeah.
Also, when Path of Exile 2 comes out, all of your microtransactions, all of your cosmetics will carry over into the new game. And they're not shutting down the original one. So you'll just have cool stuff in the next one.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Wow, good for them.
They're doing like consumer-friendly things at such a rate that it's disturbing and makes the other games look even worse.
That's amazing.
The final point here, and this is sort of my conclusion, is that it's not really ultimately a comparison between Path of Exile and modern Diablo.
Okay.
It could be. I mean, that's sort of how we anchored this.
Yeah.
But you don't just have to pick one. Essentially, you can buy Diablo 4 and then download Path of Exile for free. So you can
Two
try
for the price
both
of
of them.
one. Yeah. Well, that's a nice way to think about it.
And
yeah.
if I'm bringing back this report to you, I went off on this assignment or excursion. I'm coming back with the news of my discovery. I think it's just joyful.
Yeah.
I think this is a celebration of we found more of the thing we love.
That's great.
And there's such passion coming out through this game from the developers in all of these different areas and things that they've tweaked and improved on the formula. It feels so loving.
That's fun.
As an addition to this genre. There's so much to see and explore in this game. I'm hooked. And I would want all of you, if you've enjoyed Diablo 4 or Diablo 3 in the past or even 2, check out Path of Exile. It's a lot of fun.
Important question. Does it have couch co-op?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, never mind. No, but that's okay. I mean, I love playing Diablo and Diablo-style games with you, but I also love a good just like solo run, and so I feel like I could get into this on my own very, very easily. So, well, that's really great. This is a game I'd never heard of until you told me about it.
Yeah.
What other classes did you try in the past that didn't work for you?
More of the melee ones.
Like what are the classes? Do
well,
you
that's
remember?
my curse is that I go into all these games trying to be a barbarian.
And then it keeps not working?
And it keeps not working.
You just want the Diablo 3 experience.
At this point, hours on, I don't remember the other options, but there were 4 or 5.
Okay, cool. That's great.
But the Witch has been amazing to me so far. I imagine I'll just stick with that through these 10 acts.
That's so cool.
Who knows how long that'll even take, but
great.
Yeah.
Is there like end game stuff? Like you know, in like D3 there's like the bounties and stuff.
I've just scratched the surface of it, but yes, I mean, obviously
I
I'm
sent
not
you
there.
on assignment, be an expert on this whole game.
I mean, I've scratched the surface on researching the game.
Yes, no,
and
I know.
yes, I do believe there's extra stuff down the line.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's my pitch to you and to Tristan, and if you guys play it, maybe we'll come back and talk about it again.
Yeah.
For everyone else, this is our excursion. We're almost done with Diablo. We're wrapping up some of our series here. We're almost done talking about The Witcher. We're almost done with Diablo. We just finished Summerween. We've got our new book series in the can. We've already picked it. We've already started recording for it.
We're sort of at a little turning point right now. It's all very exciting.
We're also about to hit 300 episodes. So things end, things begin.
That's really cool.
The podcast will never end.
It never ends.
So that's it from us at Second Breakfast. We'll be back, depending on when this comes out, we'll be back on next Tuesday or Friday.
We'll be back the next time there's a day.
Already did the Patreon.
If you've played
Instagram.
If you've played this game, let us know what you think. Put a comment down below if you're on YouTube or Patreon, or just send us an email or a DM.
And if you're listening to this as a podcast, go check it out on YouTube, because I recorded a bunch of my footage across the hours.
See gameplay, yeah.
Right, and I've edited it, so that's playing through in the background throughout this episode.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Thank you for joining us, as ever.
Thanks for pitching this to me, Cam.
Yeah, I hope you
this
liked
has been
it.
fun. Thanks for fully preparing an episode that I didn't have to do a thing for. I'm just here. I'm just riding along.
So yeah, let us know. Subscribe to the Patreon, and we'll be back very soon with an endless torrent of new episodes.
You said like it's torturous and terrible.
No. Torrent is also the horse in Elden Ring.
Oh, of course.
And I was a sorcerer in Elden Ring, and that was fun too.
Oh, that's true. You were.
We'll talk about that one day.
There's a theme.
And Skyrim.
One day.
All right, bye.
Bye.